Hello, welcome to the latest VITA production. Today we're going to talk about how to prepare local tax returns on paper. As we mentioned in some of the trainings, hopefully the tax returns we can just do online, but again last year we couldn't, so we're just going to move forward assuming that we can't. So again, this video is just to show you quickly how to prepare a local return on paper. So a couple of things that I'll be using that you should get out if you're going to be following along with me. One, we need some kind of income statement. I'm using one of the W-2s from the Hess tax return. You can find this in your income training or your tax layer training manual, which you will receive in January. So again, if you don't have this book yet, you can get it from the PowerPoint slides and handouts from the income training. In addition, a blank local tax form. That's always helpful when filling them out. You can find these online at lctcb.org. One of these was also handed out at the state and local VITA Tax Training. Lastly, you will need, found in your binder, in the volunteer manual, codes tab. These are all of the local codes. These are all the local codes, so we'll use these when filling out the local return. So now we'll take a minute and look at how to actually prepare a return. So now taking a look at the tax form. This is our local Lancaster County tax form. So the first thing always to do, because they do recycle these forms year after year, is put the tax year. So we will just go ahead and assume that this is a 2017 tax return. We're doing this return for the Hess family. So there is Robert and Karen Hess. We can see their information on the W-2, but at this point we'll have also filled out their tax return. So we want to make sure, of course, that we're using the correct information. We're also assuming that they lived here 123 West King Street for the whole year. So, very easy, we'll put Robert Hess is taxpayer A, Karen Hess taxpayer B, throw their address in, 123 West King Street in Lancaster. Please excuse my horrible handwriting. Oh man. State is Pennsylvania, zip code 17602. Much like on the federal return, we also have to indicate their filing status, and they are married filing jointly. With the local return, we list taxpayer A, taxpayer B income separately. So we list taxpayer A social security number. We get this from their social security card. It is listed on the W-2 as well, so we'll just use that one, 101. Bunch of X's for the sake of our example, and for Karen we will just put 102. And a bunch of X's. What's important to do now before we put the income in is to figure out the residence code. So in order to do that, before I mentioned the list of codes. So again, this is in your volunteer guide under the codes tab. So they live in Lancaster City. So we can look on here. There is Lancaster, so then we need one of these codes. So they live in the city, so that is 361001. We'll also take note that their tax rate is 1.1%, or 0.011. So now we go back to our tax form. Up here we'll throw in the code, 361001, and then down here on line 9, this is where we're going to put that tax rate of 0.011 or 1.1%. Most of the county is 1%, Lancaster City is 1.1, and there are some areas that are different, so please make sure you check back with the form. Next, we're going to look at our W-2. So the first thing we're going to do is look at this local wages. So we have local wages. Local income tax refers to withholding, and then the locality name. We always want to figure out with the client what the locality is. So it's best to ask them what municipality they lived in. If they don't know, there are some resources down here at the bottom of the code section where you can help them to figure out exactly which municipality. So again, first we're going to take a look at their income and then list that on the tax form. So now that we have the W-2 earnings listed, and that's really going to be the primary thing for most of our VITA clients, just making sure that all of the earnings from each of their W-2s is added together. Again, this is just for Robert Hess, but once we have that listed, we can go down. Robert Hess is not self-employed, so he doesn't have any business expense. He doesn't have any other taxable earned income. So we'll put the total taxable earned income here. Again, that is $23,621. We don't have to worry about net profit or net loss. So going down, our total taxable earned income. Once again, we have $23,621. Now these local returns are not meant to be difficult. So now we do 1.1% times $23,621, and that'll give us our tax liability. So that is $260. Now we'll look at our tax withheld. So again, we look on our W-2 for that. And that is in box 19. So that's $236. Now you'll notice here that the tax liability is more than the withholding. The vast majority of the time with our clients, they will have had the correct amount withheld. So they won't owe any tax and they won't be getting anything back. But this is one scenario that we'll see. Most of Lancaster County is taxed at 1%. And that's what the withholding was here. $236 is 1% of $23,621. That said, the Hesses lived in Lancaster City, so they're taxed at 1.1%. So that's why we see that discrepancy there. Again, it doesn't happen a whole lot, but it is something that you may see. So next we're going to just indicate the total credits. So the total credits is just, again, putting down the withholding of $236. So $236 versus a tax liability of $260. So the difference there is $24. So we're going to put $24 down on line 16 for the tax balance due. We don't have to worry about penalty or late fees because we're just doing this during tax season. So the total amount due is $24 for Robert. Now moving over, we're going to go through the same process with Karen. So taking a look at Karen's W-2, we're looking at the W-2 from Main Street Gas. So we have $6,875 of earnings. We're just going to list that again for our total, $6,875, and then one more time for our total profits here. Excuse me, our total earned income. So our tax liability, again, that 1.1% times $6,875, and that is $76. Here again, she only had 1% withheld, $69. And again, like any tax situation, we are going to round. So there's $68.75, which is rounded up then to 69. So we will cruise down then and indicate our total credits of that $69 that was withheld. Now the difference here is $7. So that is our tax balance that's due and the tax balance that's due here. So this is probably one of the more difficult local returns that we'll see, in that there is something other than zero amount due and no refund, because again, most people are taxed at 1%. They have 1% withheld, so it's really no big deal. Once we're done, the client will sign signature A for the taxpayer, Robert, B for Karen, the spouse, and then they can indicate phone number, date, and occupation. You'll notice on these forms that there is a paid preparer's name and phone number. As we are not paid preparers, we do not need to do this. So at this point, we just need to help get the client get this all set. So we have our local tax form that we fill out. We need to include copies of all the W-2s. So we'll just add in copies. You can rip one off the W-2s and then go grab a local envelope. So you can tell these are local envelopes. They have LCTCB. So once you find the envelope, you can see the different addresses here. So there is a payment to be included in this one. You just rip off the payment section. See if I can do this smoothly. At that point, you can affix that to the front, like so. Include the return and copies of W-2s. So again, that is how we prepare a fairly basic local return with a little bit of a wrinkle here with withholding. There are some other things to look out for when preparing local returns though. Sometimes clients will have moved, so there are resources in your binder, or ask the site coordinator the first time you encounter that, whether the client has moved maybe out of the county or has changed municipalities in the county. So if the Hess family lived in Lancaster City, which taxes again at 1.1, they live there for part of the year and then move to Hempfield, which taxes at 1%, we would have to figure out a blended rate. And again, there are resources for that in your binder. Ask your site coordinator or an experienced volunteer the first time, and they'll help you through it. So thank you again for taking the time to watch our video. Again, we will all cross our fingers that local returns will be in the software, but we definitely can handle it if we do need to do them on paper.